Have you been feeling that maybe you have a little bit of a passion or dream that you would like to pursue, but you also have a career? Well, you need to listen to this episode because my guest does all of it. Hello, lovely dynamic women, and welcome to the Dynamic Women podcast. I am Diane Rolston, your host, and today we have my friend, Sarah Shafey here. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Diane. How are you?
Pretty good. Yeah. You?
Happy to be here. I'm great. I'm
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, listeners, if you have been thinking about pursuing your passion, Sarah's going to talk about this today because she has a really cool passion. She's an artist, but like a real artist, not just a playing around in her basement sort of artist. But let me just read her bio to you and then we'll dive into it. So Sarah Shafey has two parallel career paths, one as a musician and one as a senior program manager in technology. Both are of equal weight and importance and have a symbiotic relationship. She has worked as a music producer, audio engineer, and artist for more than a decade, and she's releasing her next album. This is her fourth one, Black Box Universe, on September 23rd, 2022. She also has a background in software engineering technology. Holy cow. And she believes there is power in pursuing your dreams and finding a balance between the creative and analytical parts of yourself. Wow. Impressive. Like I already knew you, but when I read your bio, I was like, okay, you've just taken it a level up with all these other talents that you have.
Thank you.
So let's, we're going to get into the album. We're going to get talking about that. I think that's super cool. And I'm really excited to ask you about that. But first, it's the whole, you have a career, but you have this passion and you've put out 4 albums. So actually, first I want to how did that start? Why didn't you go straight into being an artist, or why didn't you just stay in your career?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I actually started out after university. I graduated with a degree in psychology. Wasn't really sure what to do there, but I've always been passionate about music. And so I knew I wanted to really give it a good go. So I packed up my bags. I moved to the big city of Toronto to give that a shot. Scared, not really sure what to expect from it, but had an amazing kind of just run of it while I was in my 20s, where I was a musician, but just kind of by default of hanging around music studios and observing other producers produce and engineer. I just, there was not very many women actually at the time doing that. So I was like, I want to do this. This is something I want to figure out. And so I just did. And then I started my own little, studio called Squeaky Clean Records at the time, where I just started working with other musicians in different aspects of within the music industry. And I had a great time, but I always told myself, I also still like using, like I said, that analytical side of my brain. And I felt like I could do more. And so I was like, let's go back to school. And it was through doing music and realizing that I was really quick at picking up music programs when I was having to learn. And I was like, maybe there's something there. And that's what led me down the path of software engineering, which was, I started out as a programmer. So they kind of just happened. It happened that way.
Yeah. But you are putting together albums.
Yeah.
As you're working a full-time job. So how do you balance them both?
I think that, when you have the passion and the drive and you love something as much as I do music, it was never it was when I went back to school, it wasn't to trade off. It was always with the intention. A big part of it was actually wanting to pay for my music by getting a job. That's kind of was the primary motivator, and do music how I wanted to do it, not wait for grants, just do it exactly how I wanted to do it. And so that was the motivator, and that is still the motivator. And I've never forgotten that. So that's really the primary reason why I do what I do.
Yeah.
And how do I balance it? I mean, you just find, you find the 5 minutes in the day, you find the 10 minutes in the day, you find the half an hour, maybe early morning on the weekend. I wake up maybe just a little bit earlier. I go to sleep a little bit later. You just find the little bits and bobs in between.
Yeah. Yeah. But what I've seen in the way the album cover has been put together and how you're releasing this album and all these things, you didn't half-ass it. Like, you have gone full out and really put so much creativity into this. It's outstanding, really, when I see it all. So what's important to you about really putting this together in the most like premium way you can?
That's a great question. I don't half-ass anything in life in general.
Good.
So one thing that's been really great about this album is that I've been doing it for a couple of years, actually. I really wanted to take my time with this one, as opposed to trying to rush it, which I have done in the past. I've put out albums within a year, but this time I took maybe 3 years to do it. And every step of the journey actually has, like, I haven't done like a 5-year plan. I've said, I really want to find a good producer to co-produce with. I took that step first, focused on that. I want to find the right musicians to play on that. And so every step I've kind of stopped, paused, spend some time thinking about what the next step after is going to look like, as opposed to trying to map out the whole journey. And so because of that, every kind of element of it has been just me putting all of my effort into that. And so that kind of happened all the way through to the end, including the look and feel of it. I honestly just had a blast doing the whole thing. So I'm not a half-asser. It's not my personality.
Well, what I'm hearing is that you actually, because there's process goals and results-based goals. So the result being put the album out. But process-based goal is that you're focusing on the process.
Yes.
And no matter what the end result is, the process is the most important thing. And I love how you also allowed yourself to enjoy it, where a lot of times we push to get things out. I know in the past I've done that with different programs or books or things because I had a deadline and it had to get done. But you gave it a lot of space. And so what did that do for your creativity?
It allowed me to really hone in on the creative side more than anything else. I have had deadlines in music in the past and it doesn't yield the same result. And so it just allowed me to really enjoy, like you're saying, every step of the way. And, if I'm going to compare it, because I do compare my music world to my program management side, I do run programs in an agile way. And so I can just consider this like an iterative approach to making an album. Every kind of sprint is a specific result, and then I just build on it until I get to the final result.
Yeah. So for those of you who are following along with this today, like, really be grabbing the nuggets from what Sarah is sharing. And even if you're like, I'm not an artist, you can hear how she breaks things down into small pieces, allows each section on the way to her goal be important at the time, so she can be present and creative and do her best at each part. And it also sounds like it makes it a lot more manageable, less overwhelming, more enjoyable. Yeah.
Absolutely more enjoyable is the main thing. And it also allows you to use the time that you do have, which is not a whole lot because I have a full-time job. You really use that time wisely because you're not sitting there trying to figure out the full picture. You're just looking at the chunk in front of you at that time.
Yeah. So the listeners have got to know a little bit about you, the things you're doing, your passion, which is more than just a passion project. It's like a whole nother side of you. Yes. And I think maybe it's time that I share a little bit more about the album. And then we take a listen to one of the singles that's been released. Sound good? Yeah. Okay. So this is your fourth album called Black Box Universe. I want you to say a little bit more about what that means in a moment. And it's out in September, so 23rd, 2022. And you're delivering your most theatrical album to date, filled with big, bold, heavy production. This genre bending, I love it, genre bending collection includes influences of electronic pop, rock. That's quite the mix. And you brilliantly weave themes of unveiling different versions of ourselves. So I want you to talk about those 4 versions. Also women's empowerment, which I'm all about, and science fiction, which is super cool, while captivating listeners with your seamless vocals and strong production. Awesome. So good. And there's a few things that you say here. I'm going to come back to it in a moment. I'd love for us to take a quick view. So for anyone who is listening to the podcast, there's going to be a link in the show notes to take you straight to see Sarah's artist page on Spotify. You're going to be able to see her album cover. If you saw the image for this episode, you're also seeing a little bit of that theatrical side of Sarah in the image of her. That's not how she walks around every day. But let's dive in. I want to play a little bit here. And so this song is called Competitor. Yeah. And why don't you actually, before we jump in, just talk about what the album's name means.
Black Box Universe. Yeah. So Black Box Universe, I think I came up with the name during the pandemic. And I mean, as we all know, the pandemic was not the most positive experience for the world. And so I just, we were seeing a lot of things, happening, a lot of war, a lot of negative things happening in the world. And so I would just, a lot of this is like theatrical and spiritual in a way where I was, the idea is like, we're stuck in this black box universe where, there's a negative, force that's taking us over. And so I wanted to kind of push us out of that. And so that's what the concept is about.
That's so good, because I keep hearing so many people saying, like, I feel so different now, and coming out of this, I'm not as maybe as driven or as persistent. And I just feel like something's lacking. And so it's good that you're putting the music maybe to how people are feeling now as well. Yeah. Let me just, for those of you who want to see the album cover, we do actually put this on YouTube as well. So anyone who wants to see it, let me just pull it up here because it is gorgeous.
Thank you.
You're gorgeous. Album cover is gorgeous.
All right. I love that album cover. I really do.
Yeah. So just give it a little bit of an explanation, and then we're gonna play a single.
Sure. I mean, as you can see, I am Egyptian background, and I'm definitely celebrating, I have a fascination with ancient Egypt. And so I was like, you know what? I say all the time, I had this idea pop into my head, and I was like, I know it's very bold, but I was like, no, that's fine. Let's do it. Let's get creative. Let's dive right into it and go all out. And so I just, wanted to embody this queen, pharaoh, power woman. And that's what I was trying to kind of get out of the imagery of this. As you can see, there's Arabic writing at the top, which is my name in Arabic. And so I'm just paying some homage to that part of me. Yeah. And then you see those symbols around, which, if there's a lot of mysticism behind those symbols, and they bringing positive energy into the world in this black box universe. So that's really the idea behind the album. And I'm also just a huge science fiction dork. So as you can see, just by looking at that, I definitely went down that path.
Awesome. So great. So we're going to listen to it. And then I want you to explain a little bit more about these like 4 versions of you, about the other singles that have come out. And you're also bringing in a comic aspect. So let's do the song. Then we're going to share a little bit more about those different pieces. Here we go. Okay, I'm gonna pause it there. Teaser. Big teaser here. That was so good. I
Thank you.
just tapping my toes, moving my head. So tell us a little bit more about this. And anyone who's like, hey, I wanted to hear the rest of that, no problem. We're putting the link in. You're going to be able to. Sarah's released 3 singles already. Very soon, the 4th one is going to come out, then the full album in September. So the link's going to be there. You can go and listen to all of her songs or singles from this album that she's already released. So tell us a little bit more of the meaning behind the competitor. I'm quite a competitive person. So is that what it means?
Yeah. Pretty straightforward on that one. I think, I really want it to be as raw and honest with all of the songs on this album. While they go across different genres, it's very important. Lyrics are very important to me. And I don't want to hide behind, or, they're a catharsis. They're a way to get, certain emotions out. And so this one was definitely at a time where I was feeling competitive towards somebody in my life, and got it out through song form. And, it's a little bit like, don't mess with me. I'll win this battle.
Yeah. Well, you were quoted as saying, we all have different versions of ourselves. So I felt the need to explore who they were. It was cathartic. Some of it was a shedding of a skin that I don't want anymore. And other elements are more closely aligned with who I am now and want to be more like. Let's unpack that a little bit. So these different versions of ourselves, very true. I can show up differently in different places. Yeah. Is that what the 4 versions of you are? Because I know you've artistically created 4 versions with images as well on each single. So listeners, you got to go check that out. So talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So, it just so happened that these were the 4 versions that I came up with, but I think everybody has these different, like you're saying, versions that they present to the public, to their, to people within their personal life, to themselves. And I don't necessarily know if people recognize that about themselves, but I think it's okay to have these different versions, and it's okay to like these. They're not always great. They're not always the best version, but I think they're all important, and they teach important lessons. They play important roles. And so I really was just honing in on, like, I have this creative side in the music industry. I work, on the business side of technology. I, at some point, like a lot of women, have certain roles within, like in their home lives. So it's just bringing kind of these together and really unpacking and exploring, like, who they really are, and trying to get them to, like, merge together a little bit more, which is the fourth character, which is like a merge of all of these 3 characters together in this harmonious human that exists.
I love it. Sometimes I work with clients and they may be going through a hard time, and they're like, yeah, my friends always expect me to be the one that, like, lifts them up. And I'm not feeling that right now. And because I'm not jovial and joking and so positive, it feels awkward to be around people, because that's kind of the persona I have when I'm around most people. Or I'm expected to be, I'm like the young one of the group. And so people don't respect me. But when I'm at my job, I'm very respected because I have a higher position, right? So there's so many different places that we can be and how we can show up. So I love that you're saying to kind of, it's almost like grow into them, but then merge them all together.
Yeah, I understand who they are, unpack them a little bit, dig a little bit. It's not a very comfortable experience, I'll tell you that much. But what it did do for me was just kind of figure out the one or two that I was like, I'm not so sure, that's who I want to be right now, maybe, and focus a little bit more on, the other aspects that I think are, for me right now, it's just kind of the more powerful, outspoken. I got this type of personality, as opposed to, the other ones that are just not me right now at this point in my life.
And we can always evolve, and we can always kind of grow into these different parts that are there. It's like, turn the volume up on them. So you got to turn the volume up on them with this album. Now, you also say that you are an advocate for women's empowerment, and Black Box Universe is a homage to celebrating the different facets of womanhood. Share more about that.
Well, I think that still goes along with what we were just talking about. Obviously this is for all people, but I have observed that, more often than not, women feel like they have to act a certain way in certain settings. And I'm trying
Yeah.
to, I'm trying to empower them to say, you just be you, you act like you, because
Yeah.
you bringing yourself to the table is going to always yield the best results. And that's what I'm trying to empower people through this, these powerful images that I'm putting forth. They've made me feel a little more empowered. I am playing characters, but if I can do this, like, I want other people to do the same thing for themselves as well.
Yeah. So some really big messages coming out of this. One is like your career doesn't have to be where you use all of your skills, talents, and passions. You can have something else. Then like don't half-ass things, like go full out, but give yourself time. If you want to have more time and space to do things how you want to do it, then go for it. And then this piece about our characters or who we're developing into, and we get to choose the pieces we shed off and the pieces we embrace more. So when it comes to the album, you also, I alluded to this comic book that's being released. There's
Yay.
also videos that are being released. So talk about that, because that's really cool and a really great way. So listeners, I want you to be thinking about, maybe if you put out something, are there other products or other pieces or other ways that you can put it out to hit a different group or to just immerse our senses in different ways? So tell us about the comic book, the videos, all these other things.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the comic book. It's illustrated. I found the illustrator online. It's a woman named Sarah B. Moore, and she's super talented. I feel very lucky to have found her. And so, we have such a great kind of, back and forth type of
Partnership. Yeah.
relationship. Very, very much so. I often write lyrics in riddle form. So people are often,
Oh,
I want people to think when they're listening to my songs. I want them to kind
yeah.
of come up with their own story of what it means to them. And
Huh.
I do that on purpose. But I did want to give people a little bit of insight into what I was thinking while I was writing these songs. And so that's where the comic book comes in. Like you're saying, it's immersing people's senses, giving them a little bit of a deeper dive into the song, the character, the kind of, how, if there were a version of me singing that song, that's what they would look like. And that's the kind of personality they would embody. And so that's what that is. And so you can I can give you the link to my website, and you can find it
Perfect.
on my website. And yeah, it's just really exciting. And again, it all ties together because the idea is it's very space themed, science fiction theme, but also the idea is that there's these three characters. They don't necessarily like each other at first, but then they learn to work together, and then it's all harmonious in the end. So that's truly the idea behind it. That
Hmm.
differences are okay,
Yeah.
and we should learn to appreciate differences. That's the main message, and that's for anybody, women, men. Is like, we spend a lot of time on this planet talking about our differences,
Yeah.
when we should talk a little bit more about how our similarities bring us together.
Hmm. So that's kind of what you're hoping for the world and society. What are
Yes,
you
very
hoping
much.
for women specifically?
My hope for women, as they go kind of through this journey of my album and the comic book series and everything, is that they kind of come out the other side feeling a little bit more empowered to explore the different facets of their personality, that they don't
Hmm.
always have to smile and be nice, that they can have their off days, and it's okay, and that's perfectly
Yeah.
fine. And like I was saying before, just being truly uniquely yourself is the greatest gift that you can give to this planet. And that's what I want people to just be their authentic selves. And that's the best, most beautiful thing.
I love it, because that's exactly what you're doing.
I'm trying.
Right? Don't say you're trying, because you are doing it.
I
You are
am. I
doing it.
am.
Yeah. But how interesting you said I'm trying, because you are doing it. Like from me looking at what you're doing, and so that other people know, Sarah and I spent some time in a mastermind group together. So we got to know a little bit more about each other's lives and businesses and the vulnerable parts and the celebratory parts and all of it. And so when I got to be a little bit more part of the journey of Sarah and her musical side, it was really cool. It was this whole other side. I was like, wow. I guess it's the same when people find out I still play soccer or do other things. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, you do that as well. That's cool. Yeah. So it's been really neat. And by me bringing you on here today, I have even found out more things about you. And so that's all another lesson for me and maybe listeners as well, that like, what do you not know about those that are around you, either acquaintances or those closest to you? It's like, do you know what other people's passions are? Do you know the things that they're working on in the wee hours of the night or in their 5-minute breaks here and there? It's really cool. Yeah, I'm glad, because I didn't know you had Egyptian roots either. So have the Egyptian roots been more part of this album than any other
Oh,
album?
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. 100% more.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where it came from. I mean, I grew up I'm a second generation, and I
Mhm.
lived here. I also lived in the Middle East with my family for some time.
Okay.
And I just have kind of come to a point where I've always been fascinated by it. And I can't really explain why I wanted to go down this path. Maybe I'm getting older. Maybe I want to dig a little bit deeper. Who knows what the reason is, but it just kind of called out to me to really pay homage, because it's a big part of my life. And I'm very proud
Yeah.
of that aspect of myself. I'm proud of being Canadian, and I'm proud of being Egyptian. And they both make me who I am.
Yeah. I love it. So good. So I'm going to do a quick recap, and then I'm going to ask you about what your final message is to everyone today that's listening and watching. And so the things that I'm taking away from this are to express yourself fully. That one area of your life doesn't have to be the thing that does it for you. And so if you've got more to yourself in your career than is being explored there, then let it branch out in another area. It could be in your hobbies. It could be in the fun parts of you. It could be in how you're in relationship with others, and that we're always evolving, and that we can really bring those pieces in to ourselves and turn the volume up on them. I love it. So good. So what's your final message to our audience?
My final message would be that I truly believe in the power of doing something that you love. If you can make that your career, that's great, and that's a bonus.
Yeah.
But if you can't make that your career, then carve out those, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be hours, because that's often what people say when I'm like, oh, they say like, oh, I wish I learned how to play guitar. I'm like, it's never too late. Go for it. And they're like, but there's no time. I'm like, you have to make it a priority. Whatever that is, you have to make it a priority, because ultimately what I found, and there's many studies out there that say that if you have and you pursue whatever your hobby or your passion is, it actually makes you a better employee. It reduces your stress.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a ton of statistics out there. And so that's my final message. Go find something that you love to do. And if you can make even 5 minutes available for it,
Yeah.
you'll really love the outcome of that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, listeners, I trust that this has inspired you, that if you are not already working that passion of yours, that you bring it forward or figure out what it is. I encourage you to mark on your calendar September 23rd so you can get the album Black Box Universe. Until then, your job is to go and listen to those 3 singles that are currently released, or depending on when you're listening, the 4 singles, and check out the comic book and the videos that go with it on Sarah's website. All of this will be in the show notes, so it's super easy for you to click right through. Those are all the gifts that Sarah has brought, all these artistic gifts. And I appreciate you, Sarah. Thanks for being here. It's
Thank
been
you
so
for having
good.
me. This has been lovely. I appreciate your time and what you're doing for women as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So if you haven't hit subscribe yet, please do, so you don't miss out on other amazing guests that we have, other dynamic women that are coming on here. I usually interview them every other episode. Also, share with a friend. Maybe you have a friend who's been pushing their passion aside, who really needs to hear Sarah's story and to know that she can rock this as she does the other parts in her life. And also make sure you put a comment. Let us know, what is your passion and what did you get from this episode, so that we can follow up and connect with you. Until next time, everyone, stay dynamic. Bye.